Hello, I'm Vanessa Louise. Welcome to Choose You, Choose Bliss, where we believe in one goal, one purpose, love. Through shared experiences, we aim to enlighten, enrich, and enroll you in actively applying the tools and techniques to enable and continue healing for your whole self. Now is the time to take back our power, reconnect with our true selves, each other, including the world around us, and live life with confidence, purpose, and joy. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing you. As ever, it's an absolute blessing to share space with you all today. And today we're talking about a new way of dating. I have with me a very special lady who's going to share from her own valuable experience, who's a dating coach and the founder of Kindling Dating. So please welcome Eimear Draper. How are you this morning, lovely?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm very excited about this conversation because relationships, all kinds of relationships, are very important to me. They are the basis of our life, whatever kind of relationship that you have. But what we're going to talk about today is a particular type of relationship, and that is the intimate relationship of dating.
Yeah.
I've got one question actually that I'll start with, and then because I know there's a whole host of things that I would like to cover with you today from your valuable experience. What is your lesson in life, your greatest lesson in life, or the statement that defines what your life has taught you?
Belief, I think.
I love that.
And that is, well, from my perspective anyway, belief in love. Believe that love is worth the effort to find the person that you connect with for a romantic relationship. Believe that you're worthy of it. Believe that that person is out there. And yeah, just believing in the power of love. And a lot of people have a belief in something bigger than themselves, be that religion or the universe or spirit, whatever kind of spirituality they're into. But I do think we need something that makes us believe that, you know, the right thing for us is going to come at the right time, and we just need to take the steps to find it.
And that something being the tangible thing, because if we do believe in something greater than us, it's intangible. Whereas as human beings, I personally believe that we're wired for connection and to belong. And I know that we've spoken before, but I know ever since I was a little girl, I just wanted to share my life with somebody. And I think that, we're wired for that. And I think that so many people give up because they've tried, in inverted commas, so hard to try and find the right person. And it's not as easy as that. We've both had our own experience of that, but I love that. I believe in love, but believe that we're worthy of it and that it's actually out there. So whatever the power of love is for you. So could you just share with us a little bit of your backstory? Because this isn't, being the founder of Kindling Dating and being a dating coach wasn't your original plan for a career, was it?
Is there ever a original plan?
No, we tend to find our way to our path, but not in the beginning, right?
Yeah. My first career was fashion and fashion e-commerce specifically, which was something that I loved, and it was nice and glamorous, and it was high pressure, and it was a very clear path, so I knew what steps to take to get where I wanted to go, which I kind of thrived on. But I think I used it as a little bit of a shield, because I was kind of disappointed with not having met somebody through my 20s and into my 30s. I was kind of like, oh well, I'm focused on my career and I'm okay on my own, and I became quite hyper independent, which I think if you went on a date with me when I was in that phase, it probably wasn't the nicest experience. I think there was quite a lot of sarcasm, a lot of I don't need you kind of energy.
Yeah.
And in a way, I was my own worst enemy, and I didn't realise it. You know, I had a lot of walls up. I was obviously afraid of getting hurt, and I guess a lot of my validation came from my career, and then I kind of wore that like a badge of honour, that independence, which actually is not, it's not a good foundation for inviting somebody into your life. And there wasn't, you know, on the whole, I did have a great life, but there was moments of honesty where I was like, oh, I really would love to have somebody, and I really would love to have a family. Even though I'm trying to talk myself out of these things, that want is still there.
Absolutely. It's like a deep longing, a deep desire that, because it's deep, like you say, it gets covered over with the busyness of life. And I love that you said that you focused on a career, you were your own worst enemy and you didn't know it. I think that's part of the problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that you have these walls up, and that you, because you're afraid of being hurt. We hear this so much, don't we? It's a common thing, as definitely as you get older. But when we're younger, we don't realise that that's actually the case. Yeah. And that's part of the problem, though, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think particularly in the kind of dating space, it's quite easy to have all these things to blame it on. Like, you know, dating apps are terrible, men or women are terrible, the dating scene is really hard, London is really tough. Yeah. You know, post-COVID, nobody's chatting up anymore. And all these things are true. But I think if we strip away all that and get back to ourselves and having the bravery to say, well, I want to find somebody and I don't know how to do it. And if we go and look at ourselves and kind of how we're showing up, then I think it's all very possible. It's very possible to navigate this tough dating scene. And I think dating has always been hard, let's be honest.
Well, because it needs us to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I think that's our biggest block as humans. But also as well, I think there is, and you said it, you know, if you were to go out with me 20s or 30s, probably wouldn't have been a nice experience because I don't need you. And a lot of that, and I know I've been through that, I'm okay on my own. Because that loneliness is something that we don't want to admit, because if we're wired for connection, we find that connection, and I know I did this, you marry your career.
Yeah.
You marry the something that's not a person, because you know it can't let you down, right?
Yeah, so and you're in control.
Say that again, sorry?
You're in control. You know,
yes.
That's something that you can completely control. Whereas relationships feel like a bit scary because you can't control somebody and you can't control an outcome. And I think that the longer you're on that path of, you know, high achievement, where you're used to just being able to control everything, I think the harder it is then to step away from that and lean back into that belief that I talked about, that you know, I have to give up control and just allow this relationship to go whatever way it's meant to go, and that's going to be either the end goal of yay, we have marriage and family or whatever it is that you want, or it's been sent to teach you a lesson that you needed to learn.
And that's the hardest part, because we don't want to look at that.
Yeah.
Do we? Because we think we're all right. It's everybody else.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, okay. And it is that. I know you speak a lot about that loneliness having shame attached to it.
Yeah, it does.
And that's the bit that we don't want to admit. We go, no, I'm fine on my own. And it's like, oh my gosh, I know I was comfortable on my own.
Yeah.
Was that what I wanted necessarily? No. But I did get to the point where I would hold my hands up and go, you know what? I need to be on my own. I want to be on my own. I was okay with the shame of being on my own when all my mates were married and had children. This is later in life. I'd married, had children, and then found myself on my own. But that shame is something that is covered up with, with the blame. But what else do you think that is covered up with, you know, to cover up that shame? How is it that kind of people behave? Or
and it's funny, I think loneliness generally has a shame around it, and I think we don't admit to being lonely, and you can be lonely in a relationship.
Yes.
So, and I feel like I don't think there's shame in being single. I feel like you should almost like own that of like, well, yeah, maybe it's not where I want to be, but it is where I am. I'm doing the best with what I have, and I would love to meet somebody.
Yeah.
But actually, what we do is we kind of combine that shame around loneliness, which I think exists overall in society, with a kind of maybe I should feel shame about being single as well. And then we don't talk about it. So when somebody, like for me anyway, when somebody asks like, oh, you know, how you doing? How's the date going? I'm fine. I'm alright. Yeah. And I just shut it down. I shut the conversation down all the time. And what I teach my clients is like, just be open and have this open energy. And if somebody asks you, you just go, oh, you know, I'd love to meet somebody, not having much luck yet. If you know anybody, more than happy to be set on a blind date. And not that they will set you on a blind date, but it's just a nice open energy. And if it crosses the line that they're giving you all this unsolicited advice and everything, just be like, you know what, I'm trying as best I can. I'd love to meet somebody. Let's talk about something else for now. And I mean, most people like to talk about themselves, so you can just deflect quite easily.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's being open in a vulnerable way, because, like you say, lots of people like talking about themselves, and we can share. But are we sharing from our hearts? Are we sharing what we really need support and help with and encouragement with? And I think generally, that's what we struggle with as human beings. And being open, because we can be looking for somebody, right? But what is the first thing, because I worked this out for myself probably about a decade or so ago when I found myself on my own. But what is the one mistake that people make? Because it's looking for that person when really there's a place to go first, isn't there?
Yeah, and I'd nearly break this into two. So one, I think there's three relationships when you're dating. There's the one with yourself, the one with the life that you lead, and then the one with the person that you're inviting in. And the first two are 100% in your control. Yeah. And if you focus on those, but take action towards the third one, you know, that's putting yourself out there in an open energy, you're taking down the guards and defenses, and you're taking steps where you're going to meet people, then it will happen. And the kind of second part to answering your question, which I now have lost your question in my mind, but it was very clear when I first started this.
That's okay. It's I think when I recognise it in myself and I recognise it in my friends or people around me, the focus is on I need to find that person, as in I need to find the person I want to be with, when actually if we keep focusing on the other person, we're going to keep getting more of the same. Whereas I found out that actually I needed to be the person I wanted to meet, which is, and then that's when you spoke about the three: the relationship with self, the relationship with the life you lead. I love that. Yeah, I love that, because it is about you and your life. And then number three, which ironically comes after 1 and 2, and I think a problem is people start 3, but actually you can't have 3 before you've got 1 and 2. 3 is then the relationship with that other person. I personally, and now my experience at early 50s, it was never about that person completing me. It was always about me meeting somebody who wanted, and that's why I come back to when I was a child. I wanted to share my life with someone. It wasn't that I wanted to meet somebody. It wasn't that I needed to find a partner or a husband. I wanted to share my life with somebody. I can share my life with me, and I've got friends and family, but I wanted to share my life with somebody that when friends and family weren't there, we were. And I think...
that was the second part that I was going to say, was the being open and saying I do want to share my life with somebody. Like, one of the first exercises I do with clients is let's strip away the bullshit. Like, we're all sitting here going, I'm focused on my career, I'm too busy, I'm okay on my own, my life is lovely, I don't need anybody. And that is this closed energy, and it's never going to lead to you finding the person until you are ready to say, I want to find somebody and I'm open to it, and I'm going to take the steps I need to get there. And you're right, we completely go the wrong way. Like, as soon as you mention dating, to, you know, obviously as a dating coach, I will say, I'll talk about dating quite a lot. And the first thing people will always talk about is dating apps. Dating apps, dating apps, dating apps. And scammers and this, that and the other. And I'm like, but that's like all the stuff that's not in your control. And it's just the tool to get to the thing that you want. Why are you putting all your energy onto that?
Yeah.
And the same of like, all the focus is on finding this person that hits all these check boxes. And that's not actually what you're trying to find. You're trying to find the relationship that you want, which is building a life with somebody. And that is, you know, there's this really nice kind of graphic of like a relationship being a triangle where you've got the person, the other person, and then the relationship, and all three need to be worked on.
Oh,
and we can't be sitting,
yeah,
and you can't be sitting in this waiting energy of like, you know, when I find this mythical person, then my life is going to be amazing. And when I find somebody, then I'll go on those holidays I want to go on. And when I find somebody, then I can afford to, you know, live in the kind of house or the kind of city I want to or whatever. And I've even had somebody saying they wanted a dog. They've always wanted a dog, but they thought they had to be in a relationship before they could have a dog. And I was like, well, that makes no sense. Just have a dog. And lo and behold, obviously, as soon as she got the dog, boyfriend came not long after.
Yeah.
And it's like we're putting all this pressure on this person.
But and also the end result. Yeah, the end result of what we want it to be, rather than trusting that it's going to be right if you look after you first and the life you lead.
Yeah.
Because if you meet somebody and God forbid anything happens to them, you're still left with you and your life.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So what do you think are some of the, because you're in conversations with men and women, I take it you work with men and women.
Yeah.
What are some of the conversations you have or that you hear are some of the myths or the conditionings that women and men have?
Yeah, I'll take men first because there's a lot, depending on kind of age and circumstance, but I think there's a lot of conditioning around I need to have X, Y, and Z in place before I get the relationship.
Right.
So it's like, you know, it's almost like focus on career, focus on getting to a certain level of whatever economic stability or whatever it is that they're being told society wants them to be before you go and find that relationship that's going to, you know, complete the picture. Which obviously we all know is a fallacy because I think it's Warren Buffett said like the most important business decision you'll ever make is who you marry. And, you know, if you have somebody supporting you, more than likely you will get faster up whatever ladder it is that you put in front of yourself, just purely from having that support and that sounding board. And for women, there's a lot of, and maybe this is true for men as well, there's a lot of like conditioning around being chosen. And, you know, if he really liked me, he would ask me out. And, oh no, I couldn't possibly ask somebody out. I'll drop all these subtle hints that they should ask me out. And it's like, well, it would be quicker just to ask them out. And what does it matter who asks who out? It doesn't matter. It's just, that's just the first step in a dance. It doesn't matter. And, you know, there's all this kind of like, oh, if he didn't message me within 3 days, he's not interested. And a lot of like stories that we hold, I think, around relationships, particularly in the kind of heteronormative relationships. Like I always say, we should learn from the LGBT community because there isn't that, I think, same kind of like second guessing of each other. They're just open and honest. It's like, this is me, this is what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Are you looking for the same?
They've had to go through. Yeah, they've had to go through a lot to get to who they are in the world today in that LGBTQT community. That they've had to work out who they are, and therefore then they cut the fluff. They get straight to it, and it's actually about the human being inside the body. Yeah. Not the body itself. So that's a really good point. And I just wonder whether traditions as well play a part here. I'm the girl, you're the boy, you ask me out, you make the first move. And it's that's often can be a bit of a hindrance, can't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And like that it's almost like sometimes it's seen uncouth for women to do the asking. It's like, for God's sake, come on, it's 21st century. And the almost that like not asking for what you need, or not like being clear about what your expectations are, because you don't want to scare somebody off. You know, quite often I'll see people, they know they want a long-term relationship, but they'll say they're open to casual. And it's like, because they don't want to scare people off. I was like, but you want to scare off the people that don't want a long-term relationship, because that's what you do want.
That's a really good point, actually.
Yeah.
There's a lot of our own stories that get in the way here, isn't it? Because especially as you get older, and God, I mean, I remember thinking at 19 I was going to be left on the shelf. I mean, God, how sad is that at 19, when I look at my kids at 22 and 24 and think they're still such babies. But that's our own stories there. So we kind of take, and I had, oh my God, my dear girlfriend before she passed away would say that she was grateful for the crumbs. And I was like, you kidding? Like, you know, what, don't you want the whole loaf? Like, you know, and I think, is it fair to say that a lot of our stories then get involved, which we make their minds up for them because of our story?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all on a kind of subconscious level. We don't even know that we're doing it. And everybody has stories around relationships, whether they have been formed from what you saw of relationships when you were a child, whether they are the relationships that you had with your caregivers, whether it's your first romantic relationships, will all have built up to this story. And then we almost keep on playing that story out without even realising that we're doing it. And, you know, I've seen people where, you know, let's say they've gone on a few dates with somebody and they're starting to feel like this person isn't as invested as I am. And it's like, I just want to know because I don't want to waste time. So they'll send this like message that's almost a bit passive aggressive, and it's pretty much saying like, are you interested or not? But it's giving them the script to say exactly what your story is, rather than saying, like, it's instead of like going at them and like, well, what, do you like me or not? It's for them to say, I don't like you enough. So then you have more evidence of the story. I'm not worthy, essentially, is the basis of the story. Instead of doing that, actually what you do, which is healthier, is say, I am looking for a long-term committed relationship. From that, I expect to see you regularly, to have regular and open communication. Are you in a place to give that to me? And then it's like, I know I'm worthy of that. And it's whether you are able to give that to me or not. You're changing that story to that, rather than the story is, I feel I'm not worthy and I'm just going to give you the ammunition to tell me that I'm not.
Do you know, I've just written the word confusion down here, because I think that was definitely me in my early dating years. Are we confused then because we don't actually know what we want? So we haven't got the clarity, and it comes back to step one, relationship with self. If I don't know what I want, what's important to me, and not as in what I want and it has got to be my way, I don't mean that, but who am I? What are my values? What's important to me? Because there's no point in, if you are somebody that likes peaceful walks in the woods and campfires and hot chocolates, attracting an adventurous mountain climber who likes beer drinking and lap dancing. I don't know why that came into my head, but do you know what I mean? I'm trying to think of two polar opposites, right? So you've got to get clear on what it is that you want, what's important to you, what lights your fire, what excites you, and show up in the world as that. I mean, I didn't realise that until I was about 40. Right? It's a tad late, you'd think, wouldn't you? But this is the problem. Right? Traditions get in the way, stories get in the way, and we think that it's just a question of, oh, I'm a girl, you're a boy, we meet each other, da-da-da-da, which I think is what happens without too much conscious choosing about it, because we don't actually know who we are. But you look good, you smell good, you kiss great, we have a bit of fun, lovely, let's get together. And it's actually so not that, is it?
Yeah, no, and it is being clear about exactly that, like what you want and what you want to build out of life. Can that person give you what you need to do that and support you in that? And do they have the same life vision? And it's also knowing what you bring and knowing that you do deserve the whole love. We're not going to make do with cobbling together something with somebody that's not invested and doesn't value you. And I think that work on yourself to be like, fucking, I'm amazing. Like,
yeah. But that's the work, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is the work. You've got on your website, you've got a dating blockers quiz that takes 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I haven't done it because I'm now getting married next March, which is wonderful. But dating blockers quiz, I bet that is absolutely fascinating. What's your website? I'll put it in the show notes as well. But where can people find that quiz?
So kindlingdating.com.
Kindlingdating.com. Okay.
Yeah.
You will find Eimear's dating blockers quiz. What kind of thing will they find? Literally the things that are blocking them from finding the right person.
Yeah. So it's to try tease out what these subconscious blockers are that we don't realise we have, right? And it's there's various kind of ones that I've pulled out. So you're stuck pining after your ex. Obvious one, but we kind of will tell ourselves we're fine, and the best thing to do, the best way to get over somebody is get over to somebody else, blah blah blah. And it's like, well, no, you probably need to do the healing first, because you're just going to create a whole mess. There's heart shielder, which is I'm so afraid of getting hurt, I'm not actually being open. There's the overwhelmed achiever, which is probably where I was. That it's like I'm putting all of my energy into work and I just don't have time for dating. Dating is like this black hole, taking up time, and it feels like admin, and I can't see the reward. Whereas if in a work sense, you can see I do this and I get this reward. There's the pessimist, so you just don't believe. You don't believe in modern dating. You don't believe that you're going to get the relationship, whatever it is. There's the jaded dater, and that is obviously you're just exhausted by it all. There's I think 10 different personas are blockers essentially, and then on the back of that there's a 5-day free audio series, and that is just to start trying to reframe some of those thought patterns and exercises to help you tease out what is it that I actually am thinking and how can I challenge it.
Exactly that, because we don't know the label of the jar we're in. Yeah. And I love that saying. I heard that decades ago, but it's so true. I'm constantly saying to my family, tell me if I'm in my way. Like, if I'm being a dick, like, tell me. Like, because, I work on myself every day with my line of work. But we can't see when we're in our own way. But I absolutely love that. Would that quiz, and I'm not asking for myself, but it would be interesting, would that quiz be helpful if you are in a relationship? Or is it, or maybe, and should I follow up with that, is if you're not maybe happy or questioning if you're in the right relationship? Could you work out a bit about yourself?
I think it might be interesting. The questions are very kind of linked to dating. I think you might find it hard to answer. But it's probably interesting just to see.
Because there's many people that are in relationships for the sake of being in relationships. I think that is the greatest shame, for whatever reason. But you also... Yeah, go on.
Weirdly, I have actually coached quite a few people out of relationships for that exact thing. They come and they're like, I'm with somebody, but I'm not sure it's right. And it's getting back to what we said, like, well, what do you want out of life? Yep. Can this person give that to you? Yep. Can you achieve that with this person?
I find that the toughest thing, because in emotional coaching that I do and helping people come back to them and remember to love themselves first, they've either lost themselves, and sometimes the relationship is a big part of that. I find that the toughest thing. I don't advise. I extract out and reflect back. And I guide people back to them, and then they make up their own minds. I didn't actually realise, gosh, I think I'm in the wrong relationship. That's tragic. But equally, building their own inner confidence means that then they're either willing to accept it or they have the courage to have open conversations. And sometimes it means then that actually this is the conversation we needed because they were both feeling like that and they just kind of drifted apart. Or actually it is, do you know what, you're right, actually we're not happy. Either the kids have grown up, or you look at each other and go, yeah, you know, I did, but not now. And I think that's okay. This is about having adult conversations, isn't it? Yeah. But you can't have that adult conversation if you haven't had that conversation with yourself first.
No.
That brutal honesty.
Yeah. And it can feel hard, because I think the easier thing is to sleepwalk through life, isn't it? And just keep yourself busy. Don't delve into the big topics. Keep telling yourself everything's okay. And that is easier. But ultimately, is it going to give you the life that you love? And
no, it's not.
Are you worthy of a life that you love? Absolutely, everyone is.
And that comes back to the belief thing.
Yeah.
Because I know that was my struggle. I really started to lose faith, lose sight, and lose heart. That actually, I even questioned, maybe I was just meant to be on my own. My little boy, when he was 7, oh my God, he's 22 now, but I remember seeing him at the dining room table one evening, writing a little love letter. Dear Lucy, I love you. Will you play with me in the playground? Love, Jodie. And then he'd go off to school, right, with it in his satchel, and then his book bag or whatever it is, and he'd come back the next day. Dear Megan, I love you. Will you play with me in the playground? Love, Jodie. Right, and then he'd go off the next day, and he'd come back. Dear Helen, I love you. And it's been off about 10 days, right, with 10 different girls' names. And I sat down, I said to him, Jodie, are you making your way through the whole class? And he went, Mummy, very serious, looked at me, he was 7, Mummy, I've got so much love to give, I'm just trying to find somebody who wants it. Oh. And I thought, that's classic. I'm going to remember that. And actually, I thought that of that a few years ago, before I met Al. That was me. You know, I've got all of this love to give. I am literally just trying to find someone who wants it. But we struggle with that, don't we? We struggle to receive. You talk about something which I absolutely love called flipping the script.
Yeah.
Talk to us about flipping the script.
So my kind of whole ethos with Kindling Dating, which is me and a collective of coaches that are here to help you, is a new way dating means putting the focus back on you. So it's not all this negative noise about how bad dating is and which app I should use and what my profile should look like. It is just getting back to who you are, what you bring to a relationship, what you want out of a relationship, and moving those blockers that you have in your way that you don't know you have. And the flip the script idea is, you know, quite often dating feels like you're out there in the wilderness, like desperately seeking somebody. You're just looking for that perfect Prince Charming that's going to complete everything.
Or Princess Charming.
Or Princess Charming. And why do I have to go on all these bad dates and kiss all these frogs to find them? And it's like, well, flip it. And instead of you desperately seeking, is like, you know that you have a lot of love to give. You know that you will make somebody a great partner. If you think about all that you have achieved, all that you are, all that you've overcome, all that you do for other people, and then sit back and reflect and be like, will I make somebody else's life better by being in it? Yes, you will. Because there's somebody out there that's sitting on their sofa, lonely, swiping through Tinder, just gone, I just want to meet somebody lovely that I can spend the weekend with, that I can go on holidays with. And then they meet you and you're this warm, loving person, or you're this super efficient go-getter that's going to help the two of you come together and create something bigger. Then yes, somebody's going to be lucky to be with you. Yeah. And then dating is not this horrible chore of trying to find somebody. It's you enabling somebody to find you. And that means, yes, you have to take steps and action to be present where they can find you, whether that is online or in-person events. And that you have to have an open energy so that when they do come across you, they feel welcome. And Absolutely. That's how you flip the script. And that's what dating is. It's like focusing on you and what the end goal is, not the steps to get there. Yeah,
do you know, because it is, and I think, I can't remember the phrase you used, but this horrible dating, it is, because it becomes something that's not enjoyable.
Yeah.
And I love people, which I think is half my problem, and I see the beauty in people. Not that loving people is a problem, but the fact that I just love meeting people.
Yeah.
And your enthusiasm can be seen as flirting. That was definitely my case. I had to learn how to be boundaried.
Yeah.
And actually I was forced to get really clear about who I was and what I wanted and my values and what my value that I had, not just my values, but the value I had to offer somebody, and be okay with the fact of saying, actually, do you know what? No, that's not okay. And I wasn't very good at standing up for myself. So there is so much. And, it was really liberating doing that work, really understanding who I was as a person, the value I could bring. And I realised it just before I met Al. I'd started saying this to myself because I'd decided, no word of a lie, 3 weeks before I met him, that I wanted to spend a year on my own. I wanted to be on my own, celibate. I'd had enough. I was just like, it just wasn't working. And I wanted to focus on myself, the kids, the business, that just for a whole year. And then 3 weeks later, I met him. But I remembered just in the shower where you do a lot of your thinking, going, he exists, whoever he was, because I do.
Yeah.
Somebody is looking for me.
Yeah.
They just don't know it's me. But they're looking for the type of person I am. And I think that is a massive part of the journey. But also I think it's part of the healing. Because you can do the work on yourself, can't you, as an individual? Do you find this, that you work with people and they do the healing from themselves, these unconscious blockers, and they work with you and they go, actually, they sort of stand up tall and go, I am of value. I am somebody that is going to enhance somebody else's life.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they meet the person and then they both together help heal each other. So there's a certain amount you can do on your own, but there is, in my experience, I wonder if this is true for you too, did you find then that you heal the next level once you're with someone?
Yeah, and I think we can almost go too far down the I'm healing on my own path. Yeah. And actually you can do all the healing in the world and you can read all the books and you can do all the therapy, and then you can sit across the table from somebody and they will trigger you and you will be right back to where you started. And you have the tools to get yourself back out of it again. But, it can just take one bad date and it will chuck you back. And then you're like, oh, I'm swearing off dating because I was better on my own. And it's like, no, that just wasn't the right person. And when I'm working with clients, I always say we're going to combine mindset with practical at the same time. Every session, I want to combine what you're thinking, how you're feeling with what are you doing? Yeah. Because that means that, and everyone's different. It might be you're already doing online dating and it's just observing where you're falling into bad habits and how do we change them. But by 3 weeks in working with me, I want you going on dates. I want you to come back and tell me what you felt when you sat on it across, well, hopefully across the table because it's a bit like an interview. But, when you were in somebody's company, how did you feel? Yeah. And that's one of the things I think with dating as well. We're so stuck in our heads, in checklists and red flags and the admin and the overwhelm of it, that we forget that love is a feeling. You have to feel it. You have to get in touch with being able to read what your body is telling you of how you feel when you're in this person's company and trusting it, because we don't trust ourselves anymore because we're all so in our heads. And your body is right. Your body tells you what is right for you if you believe it.
And if you're quiet enough to listen. Because there's too much practical advice. Send this text to get this response, or and I'm like, oh no, how that for me. I'm not saying it's wrong. That would be too much like game playing. And so, just touch on, if you could, because there is a lot of talk around this. And I remember coaching a guy once that, bless him, he was in recovery for sex addiction, so relationships was a big thing for him. And he used the term, which I absolutely loved, I spray the red flags green to make it fit for him. And I loved that. And we have a habit of doing that. So we know the red flags are there. Yeah. And yet we spray it green because we go, oh, yeah, but what happens if they are actually the one and I'm just misinterpreted it? So we're not trusting ourselves, right? Yeah. Do you get that a lot? Talk to us about the red flags and the green flags. Like, you hear this term a lot.
Yeah, I can't stand it.
No, I don't like it either.
No, I'm just like, that's in your head. That's operating in your head. And it's that, I can't remember what the cognitive bias label is. but the one where if you're thinking about buying a red car, you'll see lots of red cars.
Yeah.
And it's so if you're thinking about red flags, you're going to see red flags. Even in possibly the most perfect match for you, you'll find something.
Is it the reticular activating system in the brain, the RAS? Yeah.
And I just think, like, we have to get away from that. And then obviously the counter to that is like, well, focus on the green flags. And I think we naturally as humans focus on the green flags anyway, because you'll come away and you'll know whether you laughed or you smiled or you felt good.
Yeah.
We just trust ourselves. And because there's all sorts. There's amber, there's purple, there's pink, and I'm like, no, come on, this is getting ridiculous. Like,
but you're right. It's being in your heads is how we have to label it because we have to understand it. But actually, like you say, love is a feeling. You can't label that.
Yeah.
And feelings don't have language. Yeah. So it's. But do you find that people struggle because to trust themselves because they're not feeling? They're not actually used to feeling. We've numbed ourselves out.
Yeah, possibly. And I think a lot of it comes back to fear. Like, if you've had a relationship in the past that led to hurt for whatever reason, your brain remembers that, and your brain's job is to protect you.
Yeah.
So it is constantly, in flight or fright mode, because it remembers, oh, hold on, relationships lead to hurt.
Yeah.
As soon as there's any inclination that they're going there again, I'm going to step in and stop them.
Yeah.
Because that leads to hurt.
Yeah.
And they're constantly like looking for the tiger. It's just
absolutely, because if you're dating, then you have experienced the hurt in a relationship. Let's face it, because if you wouldn't be dating if you weren't hurt from a relationship. You'd be in that relationship and it'd be working.
Yeah. And actually, you remind me, I was asked to do a workshop for single parents, and then the person that was organising it asked if I could also incorporate that it would just be for parents of children or adolescents of dating age, and incorporate the two into the one. And I was like, well, no, because if you have come the other side, let's say you've come the other side of a few relationship breakdowns, you're too cautious, you're too focused on not wanting to get hurt, and you need to be coached out of that to be trusting and open to loving opportunities. If you're a teenager and you're having your first taste of relationships and all that comes with it, you're absolutely carefree. You probably need to be cautioned on you do need to be minding yourself a little bit. You need to be aware of STIs, and you need to be aware of consent and all these different things. And I was like, it's completely different because we're at different stages in our life, because our brain functionality has built up more of a backlog of stuff that we have to wade through, I guess, in the older years that just isn't there in the carefree years. Yeah,
and the stuff that's become unconscious.
Yeah.
And it's become subconscious, hasn't it? You also talk, which I absolutely love, and I think this is the part that people struggle with, because I know I did. And I think when I say people, I mean just generally as human beings, allowing yourself to dream.
Yeah.
Because we block.
Yeah, we
right?
do. Yeah.
Is that one of the toughest things that you deal with your clients? Is actually helping them play in that dream of what they want it to look, feel like, be like?
Yeah, right? I think once I ask people to do it, they can get there pretty quickly. But I think again we get so stuck in the noise of it all and the fear that we don't allow ourselves that time to dream, because we're like, well, I don't want to get my hopes up in case it doesn't happen, and I don't want to outwardly state that I want a family in case I then have to accept that I can't have that. And I did that. I almost talked about, I always knew I wanted kids. I don't particularly like kids, I like my own, but I'm not like one of those I love a baby, give me a baby to hold kind of people. But yeah, I totally talked myself out of it. Oh well, maybe I won't have kids, and maybe I'll be alright with that. And I had to stop myself and go, no, you do want it, so why wouldn't you prioritise it the same as you've been prioritising your career? Because
you're coming. Yeah, go on.
I was going to say, when I met my husband, and I was so crystal clear on I want a family. I think I brought it up in date 2 or 3. And he was like, oh, I'm not really sure, I hadn't really thought about it. And that's one of the things that people will be like, red flag, how can you get to this age and not know whether you want a family or not? But he had done the exact same thing that I had done. I feel like, well, if I can't have it, then I don't want to be disappointed. I don't want to have pinned all my hopes on something that I don't know if I can have or not.
And allow yourself to go there.
Yeah, and it was like, you know, it does come up quite often with clients where they're like, oh, that's a red flag. And I'm like, well, no, they just haven't given themselves the time to dream and the belief that they can have that dream. It doesn't mean they don't want kids. It just means they haven't really crystallized it yet.
Some people might be clear that they don't want kids, absolutely. But other people, like you say, might have just not had the opportunity to explore. So give someone the opportunity to explore it. And because I think, do you think films play, do they help or are they a hindrance?
I mean, they help in certain ways of like, they bring out the romantic in us, right? And they bring out that like, oh yeah, actually warm fuzzy feelings, you know, reminder that connection would be nice.
Yeah.
They're also great if you're going through something and you just need a cry. I'm always like, just put on a shitty movie that's going to make you cry because the tears are good. Let them out. So yes, they're good that way. But I do think they tend to play into a lot of the stereotypes. They never really show actually a relationship needs to be worked on. Yeah. It's all like, oh, and they met and they had a big wedding and they walked off into the sunset. There's no like, and then they fought over the dishes and had to stack the dishwasher and they had to work out how to combine somebody having credit card debts and somebody having savings, like, and you know, all the things that are constantly coming up in relationships are like, you know, you think you've got it sorted and then suddenly you've got a newborn baby that neither of you know what to do with and you have to start again. There's never any of that in the movies, is there? And the other thing I always say is like, you know, when let's say people are doing online dating and they're messaging, I'm always like, get out of the messaging stage fast, get to a date as soon as you can, because the longer the messaging goes on, either you realise you're talking to a stranger and it's just really quite hard to keep it going, or you think they're absolutely amazing and then the imagination kicks in and suddenly they are like this combination of all these lovely romantic figures from all the movies that you've met or watched, and they never will be able to live up to that. You create this fantasy that is going to far exceed reality, and then you're leaving this big gap for disappointment to come in, and it's like, just meet them quickly and just be curious. Just find out who you are. That's all.
And play in it. Because I had to work out who I was in dating. I met my husband at 19 and left at 40. So it was all my adult life. I had to work out actually who I was. So I needed to go out and meet people and chat and the rest of it. Yeah. The reason I asked the question about the films is because for me it flowed on to allowing ourselves to dream, because we block. Yeah. I think I'd blocked and hadn't allowed myself to dream. And what the films did for me, I think it was one film in particular, The Best of Me. And I recognised that it is possible I used that film to ignite my imagination. Yeah. Because I had numbed myself out so much because it wasn't working and it wasn't possible, and that's what I believed, and here I was at 40. Whereas actually those films helped me reimagine and activate my feeling system again to the fact that it is possible. Yeah. Not that I wanted to live up to that fantasy, but actually that it helped ignite that dream within me. So I suppose it's your perspective of it as well, isn't it? Yeah. Because this has been your experience as well, hasn't it? So this is now why you do what you do, because you're now happy, married, children. Yeah. After it not working for you. Yeah.
I was single for over a decade, doing all the dating, thinking I was, trying to find somebody, not realising I was blocking myself, and then every time it didn't work out, I'd be like, oh, what's wrong with me? Why isn't it like me? Why is it like, what am I doing wrong? Well, and actually I didn't even do the what am I doing wrong, I just did what's wrong with me. Yeah. And actually that wasn't the question. It was like, what am I believing? That's stopping. Yeah. And then
you're coming from personal experience.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So you know how to hold people's hand. Yeah, and you've got this collective of coaches that support you and your clients. So whatever it is that they might need.
Yeah. So the idea is that my lived experience is kind of narrow and it's particular to me. So the idea is to bring in other people who have different perspectives and different lived experience, and then find the person that you resonate with. But the ethos is the same. It's always mindset plus practicalities. It's we follow that kind of cadence of like getting clear on who you are, what you bring, what you want, allowing yourself to dream. What are the blockers? How are we going to replace the kind of negative energy around dating with something positive and uplifting and empowering?
And that's an ongoing process. So you do the hand holding as you learn a new way of dating.
Yeah, and most clients will work with us for 6 weeks, and either in group work, which I host, or one-to-one with either me or one of the other coaches. But what we aim to do during that 6 weeks is that you build up a toolkit. Yeah. So if you do, you come to us and you're post-divorce and you're like, oh, I don't even, you're coming because you're thinking, well, I don't even know how to use a dating app and it seems I have to. We give you that information, but we also work on write out what your dream is, so that when you hit a bad day and you're like, oh, sod it, I can't be bothered, you can go back and read that, what you wrote to yourself, what the dream relationship is, and that will pick you up and that will give you the motivation to go again. And there's building up that kind of toolkit of if it doesn't work out with some person, let's say you've had 2 months together and then it falls apart, that's fine, they just weren't the one, but there was something that you learned from that, and take that and move on.
Absolutely.
So the idea is that through the course of 6 weeks we get you there, but you also have a toolkit to guide you when you're out on your own, but also we're here, you can just do top-up sessions with us whenever.
Just about to say that, any wobbles, then they can come back. Where can people find out more about you, please, Eimear?
So the website is kindlingdating.com. That's where the blockers quiz is. I'm on Instagram, which is kindling_dating, Facebook and LinkedIn as well, but that's probably the better.
Wonderful. Well, I would love to think that if anybody's got any questions, they will reach out to you. I'm pretty confident we all have downloads of the dating blockers quiz, because if I was, I'd love to know where my blockers were and what type of data I was. I really appreciate your time and conversation today. I think it's such a valuable piece of work that you're doing, because our relationships are important. They are the centre of our world, aren't they? And where are we without our relationships at the end of the day? And yet the one that is closest to us, that brings out the very best in us, that opens us up from a heart place, because love is just like you say, it's a feeling. Any closing thoughts on what love is for you?
This sounds cheesy, but it kind of feels like a warm hug to me.
Yeah.
It feels like particularly that kind of romantic love is you have somebody that's got your back and you've got their back, and whatever things you have that are rattling around driving you a bit crazy, that you have that almost you can lean into a hug and just take the weight off.
Yeah, I love that. Al and I have a thing that our word is champion. We champion each other. We're in each other's corner. Because like you say, if they're the person you come home to, whatever is going on, then I love that. It's like a warm hug. And as you said that, it's a feeling of home. I feel safe. I feel at home. And probably for the very first time ever, if I'm honest, I feel more myself than I've ever felt. Because it accepts me in my entirety, my retro quirkiness, as he calls it.
We always talk about it being a team. And we have both started new businesses and we have 2 small kids. So it is this constant teamwork of okay, what have you gone on this week? We have our routine of I pick up 3 days from school, he picks up 2 days from school. But it's okay, do we need to flex that? Do you need to step in?
Brilliant.
And we do that with our business. We do that with our businesses as well, of he's an accountant, so he does my finances. I come from an e-commerce background, I do his website.
There we go. See, proper teamwork. Proper teamwork. I love that. Thanks, Eimear. And, it's fascinating, and I'm sure there'll be many more conversations that we can have. Keep doing such beautiful work in bringing people together, because, there's too many broken relationships. There's too many hurting people, hurting other people out there. So keep doing this amazing work. I'll pop all your details in the show notes as well, so that people can find you to reach out and chat and connect to you. God bless you.
Drop me a DM or email. And fire any questions at me. More than
wonderful. Excellent. So more happy relationships on the way.
Yes, please. It'll make the world a better place, won't it?
Absolutely, certainly will. And God bless. I'll catch you soon.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
The invitation is to take a few moments to reflect on what's resonated with you here today. Let us know what you find. Share this episode with those you love to practice your vulnerability and enable deeper connection with self, others, and the world around you. May you feel blessed and loved as you live your days with purpose and presence. Thank you for being here, and thank you for choosing you. I love you.